Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from our IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our Wrap the Matrix Labs. The video number 49. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We are still working on the Purple Knight Active Directory Security Assessment tool, which is a free tool to assess your security status of your Active Directory. We have seen that how we can download the tool, how we can install the tool, how we can run the tool, and then we are discussing the results of that tool through the report generated by it. Okay, and we have seen that the first couple or the first group of tests, it's called Active Directory Delegation tests. We are now discussing these tests and the result. For example, we have discussed in the previous video the first test, which is to check if the inheritance is enabled or the admin SD holder object. We have discussed in the previous video what is an admin SD holder object, why it is important, why we need to make sure that inheritance is not enabled on this specific object. So we will continue discussing the other tests. The second test is to check the permissions changes or permission changes on the admin SD holder object. We have seen before that the admin SD holder object is a very important object. We need to make sure that any change or any changes made to this admin SD holder object, it is a legitimate change, or only specific groups and users are authorized to change the admin SD holder object. One of the things, or one of the best practices, is not to change any permissions on the admin SD holder object, and this is very rare. Okay, you should not play with the admin SD holder permissions. Okay, so you need to make sure not to play with the default permissions. The second test will check if there is any permission changes are made to the admin SD holder object. This could uh, be a sign of a hacking process. For example, if you find any abnormal user that is added to the permissions to the admin SD holder object, for example, maybe we can see here these are the default users and groups that are having the permissions to change or to play with the admin SD holder object. We can see we have the domain admins, enterprise admins, administrators, we have the system. Okay, we have a couple of groups. If we find any abnormal group or any abnormal user, this could be a sign of a hacking process. Okay, we have seen also in the previous video what will happen if a hacker take control over the admin SD holder object. He can control the whole environment or the whole Active Directory environment. So we need to make sure that there is no changes for the permissions on the admin SD holder object. This can be done using this test from the tool. Okay, this is the second test, and one thing I discovered that you can run each one of these tests individually through running the script that will be implemented by this test. Okay, so for example, if you go there and open the Purple Knight community folder, we will see that these are all the scripts that will be run during the installing or during the running of the tool. Okay, for example, we can see here this is a script for check guest invite permissions. Some of them are very obvious. For example, a script to check inactive guest users account. So you can run the test individually by running the script that run the test. Okay, I try to use one of these scripts, but actually I failed to run it properly because I think we need to change the parameters in the script. Anyway, so to work around and to try to run individual tests or run a test individually on the time I need, I asked the AI tools to generate scripts to give me the same result of the test done by the tool. So, for example, here I asked ChatGPT 4o to give me a script to check permissions changes on admin SD holder object, and the same was done. I asked Claude 3.5 Sonnet to generate a script to check permission changes on admin SD holder object. I will show you all the two scripts, and actually maybe they are not advanced like the scripts provided by the Purple Knight tool, but anyway, this is a good experience to ask AI tools to generate scripts. And actually, you can take the script and ask the AI tool to enhance the script. So, for example, if we take one of the scripts, for example, let's check here. If we go to permission changes on admin SD holder object, if you go to the folder and see where is the script exactly, let's see, here is the NFA, okay, and we can go and check privilege on premise AD, okay, require. Let me go further and see where is the script exactly. Abnormal password refresh, admin PW, okay, here it is. This is the admin SD holder script, and this is the admin SD holder permission change. If we go there, here is the folder, and here is the script itself. If we try to take or edit and take the script like this one, and here he's saying that he looked for permission changes on admin SD holder object occurred in the last 6 months. If you try to copy the script like that, copy, and then we can go and ask the AI tools to enhance the script. Let me first try to open ChatGPT 4o, okay, like that, and tell him to enhance this script. We can give it a little bit of a brief about what does this script do. Enhance a script, this script check for, we can go there and ask it to, or get it like that. Here you go, copy, and then we can put it like that, and then we can go and copy the whole script like this one, Control A, Control C, and then we can go and put it like that, and let's see what will be the result. So actually this script need to be tested, because sometimes the Claude, or sorry, the ChatGPT 4o, its scripting capabilities is not that good, but actually Claude 3.5 Sonnet have more, or he's capable more in the scripting section. So for example, he's saying enhancement, error handling and logging, introduced error logging and improved error handling to capture any issue that occurred during the script execution, parameter validation, added validation attributes, validate not null or empty. So if you have an input that is null or empty, he will, I think here he will give you, or he will check if one of the parameters that is needed for the script to run, if it is null or empty, he will check that and give you, I think, an error or something. Defaults and performance optimization. Set default values for start stack window and end stack window parameters to reduce redundant operations and improve performance. I think I am not a script geek or something. I don't know about scripting, but I think he is adding a couple of changes to enhance the performance of the script. Logging, add a logging mechanism to keep track of the script execution and any other errors. So he is logging what the script will do. Code organization, refined code blocks for clarity and mintability. Okay, so this is the script. If we try to tell him, please simulate the output, of of the script, let's see what will be the answer. So here we can see he give us a little bit of a simulation about what the script will do. Okay, here is the script. He's saying that if we can go there, he's saying starting the script to check admin SD holder permission changes, checking the domain is available, found SD holder container permissions changes in admin. So here he found some changes, if there is any changes to the admin SD holder object, adding results, okay, and then it's checking another domain, it is not available. And here the last one, he found one domain with admin SD holder, there is a change in the admin SD holder object permissions, failed to run the second one because it's not available. Summary or result summary, domain with permission changes, domain1.com, unavailable domain. Okay, so I think this is the output of the script. If we try to take the same script, let me do something here. I will try to take the same script and ask Claude 3.5 to enhance it. So let's go and take the same, if we go there and ask, here you go, we will take the same one there, okay, copy, and then go to Claude, okay, and do the same and try to put the content of the script again, Control C, and then go there and then Control V. Okay, let's see what will be the answer. Okay, I think there is a problem here. Okay, we can open a new window. Let me try to do something here. I will open and try to open a new window. Here we go. And then do like that. And try to copy again the script like this one. And Control V. And then try to see if we'll make any changes to the script. Your mesh should exceed the minimum length limit for the chat. Try attaching fewer smaller or start a new conversation. Okay, I think I didn't do anything if you try to do like this one. Okay, if we try to open, okay, we can do like that, copy. Okay, I have already opened a new chat, but let me do it for the last time and then we can ignore Claude. Okay, we can do like that, and again we can do like this one and try to take a copy. Okay, and ask Claude to do the same like this one, and or we can do something else. We can go there and tell him to add content. We can attach the script itself. If we go there, we can go to the Purple Night folder. Okay, here you go. Purple Night community, then like this one, then the scripts, and then we can go directly to the folder where it is. If we go, here we go, where is the privilege? Okay, just a moment. Okay, I have found it already, just a moment. Here we go. We need the admin SD holder. Okay, we can go further, admin SD holder. Okay, we can go, here is the admin SD holder permission change. We can go like that, and he is taking all of the files, but let me see if he can accept PS1 files. He had already accepted it. Let's see. Okay, he will not accept it because the script is too long. Anyway, so as we can see, we can run the test individually by running the script that will apply the test. Okay, so if we go there, we can you guys, you can check if the script is working or not. But anyway, we can see how the AI tools can simulate the output and enhance our scripts. So now the test we have already seen that the test we have succeeded. We have seen that there is no admin SD holder uh, object permission changes. There is no changes to the permissions on the admin SD holder object. So if we go and continue to the second or the third script or the third test, changes to AD display specifiers in the past 90 days. This is actually a good one. I didn't find something like this before. This is actually trying to test and see if there is any changes to the context menu. Okay, what is a context menu? This is called a context menu. You'll try to see if there is any changes to the context menu uh, in the Active Directory. So for example, a hacker can add an item to the context menu when you try to right click anything in the Active Directory users and computers console, which can initialize a script that will hack your environment. This will be very simple if we try to see this article. Here we go. If you go to the article itself, we can see a very simple uh, answer, or a very simple graph. We can see here we have two menus, something called reset password and a duplicate one. This is maybe the one added by the hacker. If you try to right click on it, it will initialize a script or maybe do something that will hack your environment. So the test will try to see if there is any changes or any things that are uh, added to the context menu, or any changes made to the context menu that will appear in the Active Directory. Okay, here the test itself, it is named, let me read it here. He's saying changes to AD display specifiers in the last 90 days. He will check if there is any changes to the context menu appearing in the Active Directory users and computers console during the last 90 days. If you can see the description, he will say any changes made in the past 90 days to the admin context menu. I have seen what is the admin context menu. This is the admin context menu. He will check if there is any changes done to this admin context menu. This can make the hacker hack your environment. See, saying the attribute control close the right-click menus presented to users in the domain using MMC tools such as aid users and computers. So he's checking the admin context menu, which will appear by right-clicking users or objects in the Active Directory users and computer management console. Okay, so here we'll see if there is any changes done to this context menu. Okay, this can indicate a hacking situation. Okay, so we need to check if there is any changes. And actually, I also asked the AI tools to provide me with a script to do that. So I asked ChatGPT 4o to do that, and Claude the same way. Anyway, before going to this test, I asked it to do a script to confirm permission change on admin SD holder object, and he actually gave me a script. Okay, here you go. He will export the default permissions of the admin SD holder object in a file, and then he will keep it in a safe place, he knows, and then he run again a test to compare the currently admin SD holder permissions with the baseline file that he exported before. So the script, what it will do, it will go and check the default permissions of the admin SD holder object. It will export it in a file, and then it will run a test again to compare these permissions with the exported default admin SD holder object permissions. So here we can see this is one thing, and actually when I run the script I have encountered an error. Okay, and I asked ChatGPT 4o to correct the error, and he gave me at the end, this is the error, and then at the end he gave me this script. Okay, you can see the script, here it goes, and actually I tried to use it and it worked perfectly. We will see that I have already recorded that. And actually also I asked Claude to do the same. If we go there and let me show you all. Here I asked, let me just remove this one. So here I asked also Claude 3.5 Sonnet to have a script to confirm its permissions are changed on admin SD holder object. Here you go, this is the script. Okay, and also you can use it and see if it will give you the same result as the Purple Knight script. So this is, I like to ask AI tools to provide me with scripts to know how the different security tools are working. So you can take the script or generate a script or ask the AI tool to explain the script. This is also one of the good ways to know how the script works. So for example, you can ask, for example, here ChatGPT 4o to explain the script. Okay, so here, for example, we have seen that we have told it to enhance the script. You can ask it to explain the script line by line if you need to know how the script is working. Okay, so let me go again and continue. Okay, here I asked it to provide me with a script to list the changes to AD display specifiers in the last 90 days. So here I am asking it to give me a script to run this test. Okay, you can run the script individually or run the test individually by running the folder that contains the scripts. Okay, so we have seen how we can run the script, okay, to run this test. So actually, here is, I think here is the way, or here is the result. If there is something, change it to the context menu. We can see this one. Okay, so let me show you all also how I have already recorded this one. So here is the admin SD holder object permissions. Okay, you can see here, these are the permissions, okay, for the different users and groups that are authorized to do anything to the admin SD holder. Okay, we can see all these. So these are the default permissions. Okay, so let's continue further. We can go further like this one and continue. Let me go further again, sorry, and go like this one and continue. Okay, let's go there. Okay, I think this is also, I have already done all of these. So now let me continue. Get AD delegations. Okay, we have seen this, all of these. Let me go further. AD delegations, no, we can go continue, continue. And here I think, okay, I ask for a script to see the changes made or admin SD holder. This is the thing, I have already seen this. Let's continue. And then let me continue also. This is the script that when I run it, it will check if there is any changes made to the admin SD holder default permissions. But actually, I found some errors and asked the AI tools to explain it or to change it. Anyway, so we can continue further. Let me go and continue again. Let's go further. Now, we will go and check this test or to see if we have any changes in the display specifiers, okay, or the context menu. So let's see how this is done. So anyway, I think here I am getting another script, maybe. Just wait for a moment. Okay, this is for checking the admin SD holder permissions, but actually I don't need all of these. So we can continue. Continue again and continue again. Okay, here what you are talking about the same, it is the script. Okay, we can continue. And now we are talking about the display specifiers or the admin context menu. If you go further, Let me see, continue. Okay, now we can continue further. Here is the point that you are talking about, and here the script, I asked it to give me a script to see if there are any changes in the admin context menu in the Active Directory. So this is the script. Let me see, or let me show you all what will be the result. So here I took the script and run it. So here what I have done, if I go to the ChatGPT, here you go, I asked it to script to list the changes to AD display specifiers in the past 90 days. When I tell him AD display specifiers, here I'm referring to the admin context menu. Okay, admin context menu in the Active Directory users of computers console. Okay, so this is it. You can read the article to know what I'm talking about. So here we are talking about this one. Okay, we will try to see if there is any changes done. Okay, so here I asked it to generate a script to do that. Okay, even though the tool has already made a script to do that, but here I am asking it to generate a script and see the result of this script. So let's see what will be the answer. Here, copy the code and then try to go to my domain controller. Here you go. We will close all of these and then put this one. We will make CLS to clear the screen and then we will run the script to see if there is any changes. But first I need to change a couple of parameters. Here I am putting my domain. So here we have a result. No display specifiers has been changed. So now we are having, or we don't have any issue concerning this test. Then let's continue and see the next step or the next test. Here saying that changes to default security descriptor schema in the last 90 days. Okay, let's see this test actually and see what does it mean exactly, or what does it will do. If we go there, let's go there and see. Here is saying that this test changes or detects changes made to the default security descriptor schema in the last 90 days. If an attacker gets access to the schema instant in a given forest, they can make changes to the default descriptor security descriptor attribute on any AD object class. These changes would then propagate as a new default access control list on any newly created Active Directory object, weakening the Active Directory security. Okay, let's see, because actually I asked the AI tools to provide me with an example to explain what does it mean exactly. Here he is saying that every object have default access control list. Okay, so any object in the Active Directory has a default permissions on it. These are saved in the schema. I think he's talking about this one. So he's saying that maybe a hacker can play with the default security permissions for the objects in the Active Directory. So here I'm asking it a question. What is the default security descriptor schema in Active Directory? Okay, here I'm asking it, what is the default security descriptor schema? Let's see the answer, and then we can tell it to give us an example to explain this test and what does it do exactly. Let's go first and see the answer, and then we can see a practical example here and then a conclusion. Let's read it loudly.
The default security descriptor in Active Directory is a crucial aspect of the security infrastructure within an Active Directory AD environment. It defines the permissions for various users and groups over objects within the directory. This descriptor is part of the schema for each object class and determines who can read, write, and modify objects of that class. What is a security descriptor? A security descriptor is a data structure in Windows that contains security information associated with an object. In Active Directory, a security descriptor can be associated with objects such as users, groups, computers, and organizational units, OUs. A security descriptor typically includes the following components. Owner specifies the owner of the object. Primary group specifies the primary group of the object. Discretionary Access Control List, DACL, lists the permissions granted to users and groups. System Access Control List, SACL, used for auditing, it specifies which actions by users or groups should be logged. Default Security Descriptor Schema in Active Directory. The default security descriptors for AD objects are defined in the schema for each object class. These descriptors are applied automatically when objects are created, ensuring a consistent security baseline across the directory. The security descriptor for an object class is stored in the default security descriptor attribute of the schema object for that class. This attribute contains the security descriptor in Security Descriptor Definition Language, SDDL, format, which specifies the default permissions. Example of a default security descriptor. Let's consider the user object class in Active Directory. The default security descriptor attribute for a user object might look like this in SDDL format. Text, copy code, dsad face A, repubcircle clork, OA, repubcircle clorquouds, A, repubcircle clorquouds, EA, A, repubclork, WD. Explanation of the SDDL string components. D specifies the DACL discretionary access control list. A indicates an access control entry, AC, that grants permissions. RP, WP, etc. These are permissions such as read property, RP, write property, WP, etc. AU, DA, etc. Specifies to whom the permissions are granted, e.g. authenticated users, AU, domain admins, DA, enterprise admins, EA, everyone, WD. Key points of default security descriptors. Domain admins, DA, and enterprise admins, EA. These groups generally have full control over most objects. They can read, write, delete, and change permissions on these objects. Authenticated users, or typically granted permissions like read property and write property on user objects, allowing basic interaction with AD objects. System Access Control List, SACL. If auditing is enabled, this list can specify what actions should be logged, such as access attempts, modifications, and deletions. Customizing default security descriptors. While the default security descriptors provide a secure baseline, they can be customized based on organizational requirements. This customization can be done directly on the schema by modifying the default security descriptor attribute for specific object classes. Via group policy, security settings can be applied across the domain or specific organizational units. Practical example. Consider a scenario where an organization wants to ensure that a specific group, say HR admins, has the ability to reset passwords for all users in a particular OU. The security descriptor for the user objects in that OU might be customized to grant the HR admins group the reset password permission. Conclusion. The default security descriptor schema in Active Directory plays a fundamental role in maintaining the security and integrity of the directory. Understanding how these descriptors work and how they can be customized is crucial for AD administrators who need to ensure their environment meets their organization's security requirements. The SDDL format used to define these descriptors allows for precise control over who can do what with each AD object, enabling secure and compliant directory operations.
So as we can see here, this is the explanation of what is the default security descriptor schema. So this is the default security permissions for every object in the Active Directory. So if any user object is created in the Active Directory, there is some default permissions that will be applied to this user. The same for a group, the same for a computer. All of these are saved to the default security descriptor schema. So here it's checking if there is any changes done to this default security descriptor schema. So this is one thing. Maybe a hacker can play with these settings, okay, or play with these default security permissions, so he can grant himself additional permissions. Okay, so let me show you something here very good. If we take this description of the test and this text, which is it's saying likelihood of compromisation, if I took these two, okay, let me show you something here. If I took these two and copy them and then ask Claude, if you go to there, let me open a new window for from Claude, and then we can tell him to explain this content in simple terms and give practical example, or let's say give a real world scenario in the context of Active Directory, and let's say domain named matrix.internal. Let's see how we will explain this test and give us an example, okay, on it. Let's see this one, and actually we can take the same and ask ChatGPT for the same one. So let's see here the answer of Claude. Okay, when I ask it to explain what this text says. Okay, let me explain this in simpler terms and provide a real-world scenario in the context of Active Directory for a domain named matrix.internal. Explanation in simple terms. This is about detecting changes to the default security setting in Active Directory over the past 90 days. These settings control who can access what in your network. If a hacker gets hacked into your system, they might change this setting to make it easier for them to access more things or hide their activities. Any new accounts or resources created after these changes would have weaker security, which could be dangerous for your entire network. Let's see the example here. Imagine you are an IT manager for a company called Matrix, and your internal network is set up as matrix.internal. Your network is like a big office building, and the default security settings are like the master key system for all of the doors. One day, an attacker named Smith managed to sneak into your system. Smith finds the master key blueprint, the default security descriptor schema, and makes a subtle change. And instead of new doors, new Active Directory objects being locked by default, they are now left slightly open. So let's see. I think this example is very good. For the next few weeks, everything seems normal, but every new employee account or new shared folder that's created has this slightly open door. Smith can now easily access these new resources without raising suspicion because it has placed with the default security descriptor schema, which is responsible for the default permissions for every object that are created in the Active Directory. Let's continue and see what is the rest of the answer. Your security system, the indicator mentioned, alerts you that there has been a change to the master key system in the last 90 days. As the IT manager, you need to investigate. Did you or another admin intentionally make this change? If yes, why? If not, this could be a sign that someone like Smith has compromised your system. If it turns out that no one on your team made this change, it's likely that your network has been compromised. Okay, and you need to act quickly to fix the security setting and find out what Smiths have accessed. On the other hand, if an admin did make the change to strengthen security, like making sure all new doors are double locked, for example, if you need to have the default security permissions for a certain group to be more restrictive, this can be done by playing with the default security descriptor schema. Then it is less likely to be a problem, but it's still important to document why the change was made. Okay, in any case, changes to this core security setting in matrix internal should be rare and always carefully considered and documented. I think you should not play with the default security uh, schema. You can delegate or use the delegation wizard to delegate certain permissions. Okay, so this is a very, very good example that discuss what these tests do. We can see here that it had already give us a good explanation about this. If we try to take the same prompt and ask ChatGPT to do the same, if you go there and tell it the same question, so let's see the answer here uh, of ChatGPT 4o. He's saying that simplified explanation. The message is warning about potential security risk if changes are made to the default security setting in the Active Directory. AD, the default security descriptor is like a template that determines who have permissions to access or modify newly created objects. Very, very good and specific explanation, like users or groups in Active Directory. If someone with malicious intent gains access to this template, they could change it to make the security setting weaker. This means that any new object created after the change would automatically have less secure setting, making the entire system more vulnerable to attacks. Likelihood of compromisation. Changes to this default security setting are rare and should only be made by someone who fully understands why the change is needed. If any unexpected change is detected and there is no clear legitimate reason for this or for it, there is a high chance that the system has been compromised. Okay, however, if the change is meant to strengthen security, the risk of security breach is lower. A real world scenario. Imagine that you're IT administrator for a company with a domain named matrix.internal. One day you notice that a change was made to the default security setting in your Active Directory. This setting controls who can access to newly created user accounts or groups or other objects in your domain. Normally, these settings are configured to be secure, allowing only trusted administrators to make changes. However, let's say a hacker somehow gain access to your Active Directory schema and modifies this default setting to allow anyone in the company to create or modify user accounts without proper authorization. As a result, a new user account or group created after this change could be easily accessed or modified by unauthorized users, putting your entire network at risk. Because changes to these default security settings are so rare, you would immediately be suspicious if you see that these settings are modified, especially if you or another trusted admin did not do that. If you can't explain why this change was made, there is a very high chance that your domain has been compromised and you need to make immediate actions to secure it. So we can see this is a very, very good example. You can ask the AI tool to explain what the test will do. So here the test is checking if there is any changes made to the default security permissions template, okay, or schema in your Active Directory during the last 90 days. Okay, so this is a very, very good example, and you have already seen this. Okay, let's see if I have already uh, done anything, or actually I asked ChatGPT 4o to provide me with a script to check if there is any changes made to the default security descriptor schema. So I think I can pass this real quickly if I do like that. So here I'm asking it to explain what is default security descriptor. Then I'm asking ChatGPT to provide me with a script to check if there is any changes done to the default security descriptor schema. If we can go like this one, okay. Okay, here we can see, okay, here is the script. Okay, and then we can copy it. I will copy it and see if there is any changes done to my Active Directory default security descriptor schema. So I'll copy it. Okay, where is the script itself? I think I have already copied the script, but let me see first. I think I have already done the script. Let me go further like this one. So here is the script, but I think I didn't tested it. Okay, so let's see. I think I have already, not the specifiers. Okay, I think this is for the changes. Yes, this is for the defaulted descriptor schema. So now I think I will copy the script and then try it, and then I am going to the next thing, or the next test, which is a very, very important test actually, and I will explain it now. But here I'm just waiting for the script to be created. Here we can see, and then I will take the script and run it on my domain controller. Here the next test is domain controller owner is not an administrator. We all know that the domain controller computer object, there should be an owner for this domain controller. Normally, I think it is the enterprise domain admins memberships, or he should be a member of the domain controller's enterprise admins. I think this, or the owner should be a member of the enterprise domain controllers, enterprise or domain admin enterprise domain controllers, I think, or he should be a domain admin or enterprise admin. So we can see this, or this should be very, very important, because if, for example, a normal user is the owner of the domain controller computer object, then he have full control over the domain, and he can, or and he will have the rights of the domain controller. Okay, so the owner of the domain controller should be, normally, I think, he will be the domain admin or enterprise admin. Okay, we will see that in a moment, and I will ask AI tools to explain it actually, but let's first continue the video. He's saying, okay, here is very, very simple. He say that the owner should be a domain admin or enterprise admin. Okay, so he's saying that the owner of the domain controller computer should be the domain admin or enterprise admin or built-in administrators. If none of these groups are the owner of the domain controller computer object, then there is a problem. If a hacker create a user and the user gain control, or he will be the owner of the domain controller computer object, then we have a problem. So here we are checking who is the owner of the domain controller computer object. It should be the domain admins or enterprise admins or built-in administrators. Okay, so this is very, very important thing. We need to make sure. So if an hacker created a user and this user will be the owner of the domain controller, then he have the full rights of the domain controller. He can create users, he can do everything a domain controller can do. Okay, so he's saying here, control of a DC machine accounts allows for easy paths to compromising the domain, while domain control objects are typically created during DC promo by privileged accounts. So when you are promoting the server to be a domain controller, the computer or the domain controller computer object is created, and this is done by a privileged account. I think the local administrator account of the domain, I think. If an accidental ownership changes occur on an ADC object, it have larger consequences for the security of the domain, since object owners can change permissions on the object to perform any number of actions. Anyway, so in very, very simple terms, if you take ownership of the domain controller computer object, then you can do anything a domain controller can do. Okay, so let's first let me continue with the video, and I will show you all also another way to ask the AI tools to explain this context and give us an example, so we can take every part of this test or every description of this test and ask the AI tools to explain it. But let me first continue. I need a script to, so here again I'm asking it to create a script to make sure that domain controller computer accounts who is owner is not a domain admin, enterprise admin, or built-in administrator. So we can easily ask the AI tools to do a lot of things. Okay, so we can tell it to create a script, we can tell it to explain a test. Okay, so let me first, before doing this, if I go and do the same thing, if we go there and take this description and copy it like this one and ask Claude, if you go there and do like this one, and we can ask to explain this in simple terms and give us a real world example like this one, and we can do like this one, and we can do like this one. So we are explain this content in simple terms and give a real world scenario in the context of Active Directory. Let's say domain name matrix.internal and then ask it to explain the text. So we will copy this one like this, Control C, and then do like that one. So let's see the answer of Claude. Okay, here we can see, let me explain in simple terms and provide a world scenario for the Active Directory domain matrix.internal. Explanation in simple terms. The indicator is like a security check that looks at who owns the computer account for the domain controller in your network. Domain controllers are special, powerful computers that manage access and security for everything in your network. Normally, these DC accounts should only be owned by the highest level admin accounts, domain admins, enterprise admins, or built-in administrator. If someone else owns a DC account, it could be a big security problem. Real world scenario. Imagine Matrix Corporation has its internal network set up as matrix.internal. In this digital city, domain controllers are like the central police stations that control law and order. Normally only the police chief, domain admin, or mayor, enterprise admin should have ownership of these police stations. One day your security system alerts you that one of the police stations, a domain controller, is now owned by an officer Anderson, a regular employee, instead of the police chief or mayor. Very, very good example and very, very simple. Here is why this is a problem. Unexpected change. Officer Anderson shouldn't have this level of control. It's like giving a beat cop the keys to the entire police department. Security risk. As the owner, Anderson could potentially change who can access this domain controller. It's like they could decide who enters the police station and what files they can see. Potential compromise. This change might have happened because this could be happened because a mistake during maintenance, like accidentally clicking the wrong button during an update. B, Anderson figuring out a way to promote themselves. Okay, so this is maybe a mistake during the DC promo process, or he find a way to take ownership of the DC object. A hacker using Anderson account to gain more control. Okay, so there is a lot of reasons why this thing could happen. For far-reaching consequences, if Anderson or a hacker using their account misuse the ownership, he could potentially, or they could potentially do change password for other users, create backdoor accounts, access sensitive information across the entire matrix internal domain. What to do? Investigate immediately, figure out how and why this ownership change happened, correct the ownership, return the domain control ownership to the proper admin account, check for any changes, see if the Anderson or any other or anyone else made any suspicious changes while they had ownership, review and tighten procedures, ensure that the only right people can make this kind of change in the future, train staff, make sure everyone understands the importance of this ownership setting. Okay, this scenario shows how it is crucial to monitor this ownership setting closely in your matrix.internal domain. A simple mistake or deliberate act could give someone unexpected control over a critical part of your network security infrastructure. So this is very, very good, very, very simple explanation that can explain why we should check the ownership of the domain controller computer object. Let's go and ask ChatGPT the same question. So now let's see what will be the answer. Let's go further. How much time we have left? Yeah, I think 1 hour will be perfect. Let's continue and see the answer of ChatGPT. Here, simplified explanation. This warning is about monitoring who owns the accounts of the domain controller in your network. A domain controller is a crucial server in the Active Directory environment because it manages security and permissions for everything in the domain. Normally, only very high-level trusted accounts like domain admins or enterprise admins should own these DC accounts. If a DC account is owned by someone who isn't part of these trusted groups, it could be a sign of security problem. The owner of a DC account has the power to change permissions on that server, which could be exploited to harm the entire domain. Likelihood of compromise. If someone who shouldn't have ownership of a DC account gains control, it's a serious risk because they can easily take over the entire domain. Usually, DC accounts are created by high-level admin accounts during the process of the setup of a domain controller or the DC promo. But if someone of somehow the ownership of a DC account changed accidentally or maliciously, it could have severe consequences, and the new owner could misuse their power to change security setting and compromise the domain. Let's see an example. Imagine you are managing the matrix.internal domain, which includes several domain controllers. These DCs are the backbone of your network security, handling everything from user authentication to enforcing security policies. One day, you run a security check and discover that one of the domain controllers have an account owned by a regular IT staff member instead of a high-level admin group like domain admins. This is alarming because that staff member now have the ability to change permissions on DC, potentially opening up security holes or even granting themselves or others unauthorized access. Typically, only very trusted high-level admin accounts should own DC accounts because they understand the security implementations and have the authority to manage these critical systems. If the ownership of a DC account has shifted to someone who isn't in one of these trusted groups, it could be a sign of accidental mistake or worse, a potential security breach. In this case, you would need to investigate immediately to find out how this group or this ownership change happened and take steps to correct it. If the change wasn't intentional, there is a high risk that your domain could be compromised, as the new owner could potentially alert critical security settings, putting the entire network at risk. One good question we can ask: what can the owner of the DC account can do? Let's see what are the things the owner of the DC or the domain controller computer account can do, and ask the same question for Claude. So we go there and go to ask Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Let's see what he can do. So first, he can modify permissions. The owner can change the permissions on the computer object. This is very, very logic. Okay, grant themselves additional permissions, maybe full control. So he's an owner. He can take full control over the computer object. Change object attributes. For example, he can change some attributes of this object or this computer object. This could include changing setting related to replication of the domain controller, trust relationships between the domain controllers, or other configuration parameters. Delegate control. The owner can delegate administrative tasks to other users and groups, so he can delegate some of the permissions or some of the things done by the domain controller to other users and groups. This could allow authorized users to perform actions like that should be restricted to domain administrators, such as managing user accounts or domain policies. So there is a lot of things here. Create backdoor. So here he can change the permissions, okay, by adding hidden accounts or groups with elevated privileges, make it easier for them or others to gain control over the domain. Disrupt domain operations. Malicious change to AD object could disrupt the normal operations of the domain, such as interfering with authentication services, causing replication issues between domain controllers, or even bringing down the DC, affecting all domain controllers. So, very critical point. Undermine security policies. The owner could modify security policies, password policy, for example, or disable critical security setting, making the domain more vulnerable for attacks. Compromise the entire domain. Okay, so maybe this is correct. So he is giving here an example. Suppose we have matrix.internal and we have domain controller DC1. If a regular IT staff member rather than a trusted domain admin becomes the owner of DC, they could grant themselves permissions to manage all user accounts, read confidential data, and even disable security logs to cover these tracks. Oh, he can even disable the logging of the windows to the security events. Okay, so I think this can be done. I think this can be done. This might create a hidden admin account with full domain privileges, allowing them to maintain access even if the regular account is revoked. Such control could be used to disrupt services or lock out legitimate administrators, okay, causing widespread issues across the network, such as being unable to log in or access critical resources. Okay, so this is a very good answer. If we go and ask Claude to give us some idea of what the owner can do, let's see here. The owner of the domain controller account and Active Directory have significant power and control. Let's break down what they can do potentially or they can potentially do. Modify permission. The owner can change access control list on the DC object, effectively controlling who can do what to the DC. Reset the computer password account. They can reset the password for the DC computer account, potentially disrupting communication between the DC and the other domain members. Very critical thing. We all know that there is a password for the computer and the password for the user. Everyone does a different job, but there is a password for the computer and password for the user. So resetting the computer account can disrupt the communication between the DC and other domain members. Delete the DC object, so he can delete it completely. While this shouldn't immediately remove the DC from the network, it can cause serious replication issues. Modifying attributes. The owner can change various attributes of the DC object, which could affect its behavior. I think the answer of Claude is more convenient and more rich. Control group policy application. By modifying center attributes, they could potentially influence which group policies are applied to DC. Manipulate DNS records. Oh, very critical one. If integrated DNS is used, which is already there, they might be able to modify DNS records associated with the DC. Okay, completely, or this is very good. Influence replication. By modifying certain attributes, they could potentially disrupt or manipulate replication between DCs. Add the DC to groups. This could grant DC. So this is also, he can add a computer to a certain group. Okay. So let me read it. This could grant a DC and by extension anyone who compromises it additional privileges. So he can add a DC to other groups which will grant a DC more privileges. I don't think, or I don't know how this can be done, but it could be. Modify service principal names. This could affect Kerberos authentication and potentially be used in certain types of attacks. We all know the service principal names. These are special accounts that are used to run services on the domain controller or run applications. So he can modify these accounts to his advantage. I think this is the service principal name. Install malicious software with physical or remote access to DC, which might be easier to obtain as the owner. They could potentially install malware and backdoors, extract sensitive data. Again, with access to DC, they could potentially extract sensitive data like password hashes. Okay, so let's see the real world scenario. In the Matrix Corporation, Matrix internal, let's say a regular IT staff member named Smith somehow becomes the owner of a DC account. Smith or an attacker using Smith's credentials could then add a backdoor account to domain admins group, modify DC attributes to exclude it from certain security policies, change the DC DNS records to redirect traffic for credential harvesting, install a keylogger on the DC to capture admin password, manipulate replication setting to prevent security patches from other DCs. These actions could severely compromise the entire matrix internal domain, potentially giving Smith or the attacker complete control over the network without immediately raising alarms. This is why it's crucial to strictly control DC ownership and regularly audit these settings in your Active Directory environment. Any unexpected changes should be treated as serious security incident and investigated immediately. Very, very good. So let me go again and see or show you all. I asked it to provide me a script to make sure or to test or to see if the domain controller computer object owner is one or is not. He should be between, or the owner should be the domain admins or enterprise admin or other privileged users. So let's see the script. If I go further, let me show you all. So I have a script here. This is the script. So we'll make CLS and then copy the script and put it there. And then let's check and see if we go there and tell him to check to see if the owner is the domain admins or enterprise admins or administrators. So here check is complete. Okay, if you have anything abnormal, he will give me here. There is an error saying that I didn't find the administrator because I have renamed the administrator account to Kara Off. So he didn't find the administrator, he find Kara Off, but actually he should alert me because I'm asking him to check if these three are the owner. So he didn't find administrator, then he should give me an error. So this script is not correct. So this give us an idea that not all of the AI output should be take for granted. You should revise the script and see if there is any abnormal thing. So here I'm asking it, we put Kara Off. This is the domain admin account or the local administrator account. So here I am running the script. He's saying check complete, so he's making sure, or it's already there. The three are the owner of the account. If he finds anything abnormal, I think he will give me an error. So let me go to the script and see if this is already the case. If we go there and check the script itself, let's go and see. Here is giving us okay, all domain controllers have valid owners, so this is a script, but I think this is the modified script. Okay, so because actually I asked it to give me another script, so this is the modified one. He will give me saying that all domain controllers have valid owners. So very, very simple, you can ask the AI tool to provide the script for you. So you can go further like this one, and let me stop at a minute or 1 hour 25 minutes because I think we have passed 1 hour. So we will stop at what point? Let's go further and stop at the non-default access to DPA PI key. I will stop at this point and continue in the upcoming video. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.